So yeah, let's start our meeting today and welcome to DevOps one-on-one conversation with myself, Aina Alive, and my guest, my friend, and my colleague, Dinesh Kumar. So as you already got from the topic, we are going to speak about DevOps. But before we move on to the meat of that, let me introduce myself and my friend. So I am Aina Alive. I am Agile and enterprise coach. I've been in coaching for the last 10 years and work with global organizations and largest Canadian organizations. And my friend today is Dinesh Kumar, who's been working with me at this moment. And Dinesh, would you like to introduce yourself?
Sure. Thank you, Aina. And I would start with I'm fortunate to be working with Aina as my colleague in my current engagement. So certainly that's a privilege to work with Aina. And I happen to be here today and talking to you guys courtesy to that association. In terms of my agility journey, it's been a decade and a half of agility journey and been into different organizations, different industries, be it financials, banking, now insurance, and as well as telecom. So been there, done that in different organizations, have seen different setups. Like the whole idea of agility is to bring your customers near to you, customers' feedbacks near to you. So how you connect with them, how you bring faster time to market to the realization, how you establish those faster feedback loops, been the journey. And I'm on that journey, and I will say my journey is still continuing, and today's session will also be a learning journey where we'll be learning something new from you folks, or we'll be sharing something based on our learnings here. Thank you. Thank you for joining us in this journey for today.
Thank you, Dinesh, and thank you guys for being with us. So let's move on to the agenda of today. So we will speak about what DevOps is, how Agile aligned with DevOps, because I am an Agile coach. This is my primary role, and why do I speak about DevOps today? DevOps Vision, DevOps, how it was before, and what is happening nowadays. Then we are going to the DevOps Infinity Loop, which is the DevOps Continuum on this agenda. And we will go through examples, because especially for people who are new to DevOps, it's going to be harder to understand this heavy technical concept without having a picture in front of your eyes, and finish with challenges and solution and DevOps engineer role. If some of you would like to work as a DevOps engineer, it's going to be useful for you to know the recent trends and recent tools, and then questions and answers from myself and Dinesh, probably mostly with Dinesh. But let's get started, and let's get to the first slide, which is Agile and DevOps. And since, like you probably got from the name, DevOps is an intersection between developers and operations. So how Agile connects with DevOps? We have three people who are basically clients who gather and provide us software requirements. We have developers, a development team who are building the product our client want us to do, or testers who test it after that. And we have operations and IT infrastructure who support the product. And we used to have a gap in communication between the client and developers, and Agile help us to fill in this gap, as you can see on the picture. And Agile helps us rapidly adapt to changing requirements, because clients sometimes don't really know what they want until they see the product. So it's challenging to build something, and then actually clients don't need this. So this is where Agile come to the stage to help to understand changing and challenging requirements from the client. But we also had a gap between developers and operations, where we were on demand of frequent releases, and operations are on the other side of the wall. They needed the system to be stable and provide stability. So DevOps is filling in the gap on this side. So Agile and DevOps are working together to make sure that the product is delivering to our clients as soon as possible without interruption and without bugs and any major challenges. So that's how Agile and DevOps working together. So vision of DevOps, the first one is to maximize flow. And as Dinesh and I spoken previously, like you can get to Montreal in different ways. You can walk there, you can fly there, you can swim there, or you can drive there. Each way, there is like never run or run in any way, but in DevOps and in Agile, we want to maximize flow because the client wants their product or their feature to get to the market as soon as possible. But again, it depends what our vision and what our values are. We can still like walk from Toronto to Montreal, for example, and it will definitely take us way more time to drive. But if we want to explore, if it's our first trip and we want to know what is really happening around, and do we even like need to get to Montreal, maybe we will stop somewhere in between and says that's enough. This is also a good approach to do, but to maximize flow is what Agile and DevOps aiming for. And get immediate feedback. As soon as we deploy our application or our product, we work for users. And we definitely want to provide value, otherwise our business doesn't make sense if we don't provide value. So to know that we are providing value, we need the immediate feedback, and that is the second DevOps vision. And the third one, as I already told, experiment and learn. Maybe we even don't need to get to Montreal, maybe we need something else, but how do we know if we don't experiment? So we encourage of failing fast and learn from our failures and figure out what we want and get to our way, to the desirable way for us and for our clients. But what happened before, it wasn't really fun, as you might see from DevOps Vision and from what is happening right now, because developers and operation people, they were separated behind the big walls, and from the development side, they needed to create new features quickly, because all customers, and imagine that you're a customer, you want your product to be built right away. And recently I've been working on my website with the developer. So when they asked me, when do you want your website to be ready? I told, yeah, in 1 week or so. That's my requirement, but definitely it's not possible because you need to spend more time. So we collaborated on how fast they can do, what are my expectations. But this is always like a pressure on the development side, build features fast. So they must create new features quickly, and they want it to be deployed as soon as possible. And on the other hand, we have operations. We have the other part of the team who, as I told before, they keep systems stable and secure, and changes are their great enemy. So they don't want to deploy every day. They need to maintain safety and make sure that the product we are deploying is good, and we won't have problems at the end. So what is happening right now, we combined these skills into one DevOps teams, where people share ownership, common objectives, they have blended roles and shared accountabilities, common metrics, and cohesive team collaboration. So before I move on to the meat of today's DevOps Continuum, Dinesh, do you have anything to add to what I just said?
Yeah, so just to add there, and I will pick on the example of your having the objective to going to Montreal from Toronto, and people who are not familiar with the Canadian geography, it's about going from one major city to another city. So now you can achieve that goal by doing multiple things. You can fly, you can walk, you can drive, you can take a transit, you can go by train, and all those are valid means of doing things. Now, what is the difference in achieving this over a period of time versus getting it in few minutes when you are flying? So that's where the DevOps versus non-DevOps environment comes into the place. Similarly, when you put that same example into your development environment, if you have to do everything manually, you are going to take a long time to get to your destination, which is your production environment, and then from there on to stabilize and whatnot. But if you are putting those automations in place, so automation is inherent to the DevOps. The same way, if you want to go faster to Montreal, you have to find a better way to transit, not walking. Same applies to your development practices. You cannot achieve faster turnaround times. You cannot be true DevOps if you are not having shared understanding of the vision and working together to faster enablement of your teams, your organization by using tools and techniques that are going to help you. So understand it. A lot of people have asked me this question in my other sessions. Can DevOps be done without automation? Answer is yes, but very, very limited or no success. But can automation be done without DevOps? Yes. Again, success is going to be limited. How these two things come together is where you have that vision of doing things faster and align yourself on your journey from ideation to realization. So ideation, when you have some thought, realization, when you're delivered, and value being realized by the user and the organization. Oh, somebody's not on mute. Okay, gone on mute. Okay. All right. Yeah, that's all, Lina. I will let you continue.
Thank you very much, Dinesh. It was very valuable, especially about the automation, which I totally missed. So let's move on to the DevOps Continuum, and this is an infinity loop which we use for DevOps and continuous integration, continuous delivery and improvement. So you can see that we have plan and code and build and test them and release and deploy, operate and monitor. So what of each of these stages means? So first, obviously, is plan. And plan means it's ongoing activity where business value and application requirements are defined together. When we planned, when we gathered the requirements, we are moving to code and build, or like creative side, if we are talking in general. So code and build or create, meaning that we include activities which are associated with creation of software release, and actually they speak for themselves. Developers code and build during this stage, and then logically we are moving to test phase. It's important to code, but we also need to test before giving people the product, and this is where the testing side is coming from. So the activities here required to ensure the quality of the release and security of the system. And when we test it and decide that everything is good, our product is ready to go to the market, we are moving to the release phase, which means that here we are doing activities to prepare and to build for the deployment and to production environment. And when we are ready, when everything is built and prepared, we are going to deploy actually when people, our users, actually are able to see the product after the deployment. And it means the activities we use here is like to schedule, to orchestrate, and deploy the software we build and test it to the production. And yeah, now our product is in production, people use it. We might think that that's it, we are done, but no, we are not done yet. We need to operate, we need to monitor, we need to gather feedback from our users and to implement this feedback. And that's why it's a loop. It's not the beginning and the end process. After we operated and monitored, we found some bugs, we found some additional requirements from the users, or sometimes appears that we deliver the feature people actually don't use. After operating and monitoring, we see like only 5 or 10% of our users are using this feature, and by the feedback, they require something else. So we are moving again to the phase one, gathering requirements, planning, and after we did it, we code, build, test, and going on the loop again and again. Dinesh, anything from your side?
Sure. Thanks, Diana. So one thing which is important to note here, this is why it is called continuous. When we hear about CI/CD, which is continuous improvement, continuous integration, continuous deployment, right? So CI/CD is the pipeline that we talk about in the DevOps context. And you can see here, this is all external facing, from where all the requirements, new ideation, and all is coming. But at the same time, you see from the bottom here, the feedback that is coming from the system is also getting included, and this comes together when we are planning. And this is the beauty of bringing this all together and having that continuous loop of exploration and insights from deployment or making it available to your end users. So on one side, you are exploring the requirements. On the other side, you are learning from the implementation of that and finding those improvements. And both are really, really important, because if you are not able to improve on what you have delivered, customers will feel that they are not being heard or their voice is not being heard. At the same time, if you are not doing the new ideation faster enough, you again get stale in the market. Somebody else will come with a new idea and move ahead in the market. So bringing the balance between listening to the feedback and getting the new ideation and getting that on a continuum is what makes us stand out, or makes any organization stand out in the marketplace. So that's all, Naina. Yeah, we can.
Thank you, Dinesh. So let's stay for a little bit longer here, because for those who are hearing about this the first time, it might be hard to picture all of these phases. So let's speak about the example about the application. So I think all of us use mobile phones now and have applications inside. So I will speak about the ClubHouse, the recent application which was delivered to the market. If you don't know what ClubHouse is the application where you can join the room and speak with different people based on the topic of the conversation you would like to do. So kind of what we are doing right now on LinkedIn, but without videos and without slide sharing. So basically, it's just you open the application, you see the topic of the conversation, you click join, and you're inside. There are many, many avatars, and you are one of them, and you're able to mute yourself or unmute yourself and speak up and share your knowledge. So this application got to the market during COVID time, I think in 2020. So how it started, the typical software process is the same as we already iterated. So first it was the idea, oh, it's COVID time, so why not to create an application where people can gather together, because they can't gather together physically. So at least they can be able to do it virtually and speak with different people in different countries, different languages. So that was the idea. Then requirements were gathered together. It was probably some marketing research regarding that, what people would love to do it or not. So people agreed to build the application. So they gathered final requirements, they started coding it, then they tested it. Then another part of our release is build and package, what we've been talking before, and finally deployed it to the market. So this is where we saw the ClubHouse application on our iPhones the first time. No, that was the first release process, and then people started using it. So it became like an exploration phase for the creators. They started monitoring it. They started gathering feedback. They talked to the first users, and they wanted to limit the amount of users for this application to make sure that the system is not overloaded and they are not failing initially. And also, if there are so many requirements or feedback you are not able to implement, you're not settling for success with your new product. So it was just invitation based. There were few users who the creators communicated closely. They gathered their feedback. They went again to this cycle of planning, coding, building, and testing. So from the requirements to code, to test, to build, and to deploy. and that's how it kept growing. So they got like ClubHouse 1.1, then they talked to the other users, and then another version came to the market, ClubHouse 1.2, and then 1.3, until it exploded. There were more and more users. But what was missing here, that users kept demanding being able to share the documents inside the application. And this feedback wasn't implemented. So users started looking for the other options on where they can communicate, but also be able to share the other social media, such as LinkedIn or like Instagram, without messaging privately, or where can they share notes while they're speaking. So the other competitors, such as Twitter and LinkedIn, created their LinkedIn events after that. So they grabbed the idea and they implemented the feedback ClubHouse was late to implement. And that's why it's so important to constantly gather this feedback and to implement it right away. But what we mean by implementing it, it meaning to release as soon as possible. But ClubHouse releases were like first bi-weekly, and then they started having weekly releases, which was also like not enough to beat up their competitors. So that's an example. And Dinesh, if you have any thoughts regarding that, please feel free to share.
Well, yeah, so that's kind of an example which did some good things from DevOps perspective, but also did not do some good things that they should have done in terms of responding to the ask from the user. So if you go flip back to the Continuum slide, they were trying to do things. If you go to the previous slide, Aina. So they were trying to go do good things. Let me just put in annotate. They were trying to do good things from here, but their process was slow. At the same time, they were trying to do good things here, and they were probably much faster from this perspective. And hence, they created a void here for other competitors who come in, and they created those products there. But this is also an example of crowdsourcing of your requirements and understanding your feedback. ClubHouse was an idea that started, and then all of a sudden, people like you, me, everyone else on this call became the idea owners. They started giving new ideas, they started giving feedbacks, and that's more of a crowdsourcing of your ideas and feedback, and apply with the DevOps and Agile techniques, and that's how this all evolved. So at the same time, we have to understand speed is everything when it comes to the marketplace. So that's where ClubHouse gone little sloppy in terms of listening to the end users and their demands, hence competition creeped in. So this is really important when we are building anything. We have to keep our ears close to the pulse of our end user, because they are the ones who make or break your products or their success or failures.
Thank you, Dinesh.
Thank you.
Mohammed, do you have a question?
Yeah, he has his hands up.
Yes. Ina, thanks for allowing me to speak. Hello, also Danish. I just try to ask about the last slide, or the one that is already represented, starting from ideation to the final release. Can we consider it as something of inheritance from design thinking approaches, or it is a complete different methodology or phases? Is there any kind of similarities between design thinking approach and the DevOps approach or not? And from your point of view, is there two different way of thinking, or they are already overlapping? I hope I deliver my question and you understand my back end working.
Yeah.
Thanks. And
yeah. So
waiting for your question.
Certainly, Mohammed, very, I would say, intelligent question in the context of the DevOps, and let me try to reiterate just to make sure that I understood your question. So your question is basically how similar or dissimilar DevOps is from design thinking approach and how they are connected or not connected and how this all comes into the play, correct?
Yes.
Okay, so yes, so
yes, definitely correct.
all right, so see, design thinking is also very similar to what we are talking about in DevOps, but what design thinking plays a role is predominantly in our, so if you look at here from the perspective, so design thinking becomes part of subset of the whole DevOps gamut, right? And if I really need to put in 3 different continuum here, so this becomes your kind of design thinking, this becomes your kind of DevOps. And when you talk about design thinking, then it has those iterative processes there. It has their hypothesis. You select ideas based on the hypothesis you persevere or based on how your hypothesis has been proven wrong or right. And then you take forward, once you have taken a decision from your design thinking sessions on your approach, that's where you then go ahead and plan for more and plan for a bigger implementation. If your hypothesis fails in your design thinking sessions, or also called continuous exploration. So if you are aware of another word, which is like another buzzword, I will say continuous exploration, which is nothing but design thinking put in a different wrapper, where you are continuously exploring throughout the cycle as part of your planning and pre-planning. And then once you get into implement those, from there on your DevOps kicks in. So I would create something like this if I am the one who is trying to bring all that together. So I will say this is my CE that overlaps with this power, this side of it, and then it becomes my part of my whole implementation. So certainly they are very similar. They all are based on Agile manifesto. Whether it's design thinking, whether it's agility, whether it is DevOps, every aspect of it is trying to emphasize on being close to your customer, being faster to your customer with your ideas, with your implementations, whatever you want to do. Listen to them and act upon their feedback faster. So everything we do in all these 3 different areas, we call it Agile or design thinking, continuous exploration, DevOps, everywhere our intent is same. How do we make sure that we are listening to our consumers, end users, customers, and delivering the value to them? It's no more the market where we are trying to work on something. We have some idea and we are working on 18 months and then delivering it. Those days are gone. It is the time for probably to deliver in 18 days, not in 18 months. It's probably the time for even deliver it in 18 hours, not in 18 weeks. So things are changing, things are going very fast. Now, can every organization be this fast? Probably not. We cannot apply this into some rocket launch or mission critical things or aviation, but we can still find efficiencies there as well. In terms of the social media and all, yeah, we can be very faster, right? So it's all there, and we can certainly have more conversations. We want to have more. I don't want to hijack today's session of Aina, but I can discuss at length on those aspects and be happy to probably have another session, Aina, to go more deeper on those aspects.
Thanks, Danish. Thanks a lot. Thanks for clarification. Thanks.
Most welcome.
Yeah, thank you.
Clear it all?
Yeah, thank you, Dinesh, for answering, and Mohammed, thank you for this intelligent.
That is a wonderful question. I must give credit to Mohammed to ask that question.
Thanks a lot, Danish. Waiting for your LinkedIn account so we can maybe have a more depth discussion. And
absolutely.
Also thank
sure
you, Ina.
Yeah.
Thank you, Ina, for allowing the awesome session. Thanks a lot.
Yeah, and thank you for the idea for our next topic, but let's move on with this one first and talk about DevOps keys and benefits. So the first key benefit is the speed of delivery of what myself and Dinesh have been talking about. Even like 8 days is not enough, and nowadays 8 hours maybe also is even is not enough, depends on how fast we want to get to the market. But with speed of delivery, we don't need to forget about quality and security, which is the second key of the DevOps benefits. And the third one is the efficiency and optimization. So we are saving money here, we are saving time, and whatever values or objective key results we have, we need to make sure that we are optimizing efficiency. And this is the third key benefit DevOps is providing us. And so we definitely had traditional SDLC challenges, which DevOps helped us to solve. And just a few examples for you. And the first one is before we had manually maintained, overused shared environments, which led to outages and inconsistency in environments and slow delivery. And with DevOps, we have automated on-demand team dedicated production-like environments. Another example is development teams' mandate to deliver features quickly conflict with operation teams' mandate to keep production stable and secure, what we've been talking already. And team works together to design and build stability and security in while delivering business value. This is what we are having in DevOps. The third example is we had delays or lack of feedback, slow delivery of code to production. We had missing monitors, impaired issue resolution. And with DevOps, we have fast automated feedback, reduces cost and time to fix code, what Dinesh kept emphasizing. We have automated feedback. We have monitoring incorporated into application design, provides visibility into the health of the application, IT infrastructure, and business processes. Another challenge we had is manual tasks, manual processes, so everything is manual, long wait time, impact speed to deliver and cost. And with DevOps, again, we have automation, we have self-service and elimination of manual processes, reduce waste and enable speed. And the last example here, but not in the real life, is the defects and vulnerabilities are missed or detected very late. And this leads to failed or delayed deployments, outages, and slow delivery. And with DevOps, again, guess what? Automated gates ensure the quality and security are built into the product. So these are our examples of today. And Dinesh, do you have anything before we move on to DevOps engineer role?
Yeah, so I think that's going to be the good segue because I see Christian asked a question about DevOps versus site reliability, and okay, so in nutshell, and before we get into more deep down into the DevOps engineer role, so quickly answer Christian's question. They complement each other. So DevOps, basically, if you talk about DevOps engineer, they predominantly focus on solving the problem that is on the left of it, which is basically the development cycle of it. When you talk about the SRE, they predominantly look on the right of it, which is about maintenance and all. But they have to come together, and that's where there is a very, I would say, it's a blurred line between the DevOps engineer versus site reliability engineer, because sometimes it is not very, I would say, different mandate for them, because their mandates are going to be feeding to the same objective. If their objectives are going to be different, we are going to be getting into the same traditional problems which we used to see in SDLC, where we have that wall of confusion in between our teams. So we don't want to that scenario. That's where some organizations have SREs as part of their DevOps implementation. Some has DevOps engineering roles as part of their implementations. Are they drastically different? No. Can they be similar? Yes. However, it depends on how your organizational setup is, how your hierarchical setup is, how your organization system design is. So it's a question that needs to be answered in your context, what works the best for your organization. We are talking about some big monolith organizations where we have hundreds of years of legacy in terms of how they have been operating. We have to go slow, and we probably will have to need of DevOps engineer and SREs to coexist in a different teams, but with the same mandate. But overall, once we get to a little more matured state, it's one role that takes care of it end to end. And that's the expectation from DevOps perspective, right? You are able to support ops and do dev, right? So the whole idea of bringing that DevOps is just the mindset that has to come into the play. We were talking about security. Security is an afterthought in traditional mindset. But when it comes to the DevOps mindset or SRE mindset, that becomes part of your continuous exploration, as I was referring as part of previous question by Muhammad regarding design thinking. So when you are in your design thinking itself, you are not talking about security as an afterthought, but you are taking those feedback in and talking in the context even as part of your hypothesis, your security, your reliability, your performance, everything becomes your front loaded. The moment you front load these things, it becomes DevOps, it becomes SRE, because you are bringing those tenets into your development. You are taking care of your site's reliability or your application reliability right as part of your thought process when you are starting to deciphering those requirements, slicing and dicing and understanding how you are going to be implementing it. So in nutshell, those could be different teams in certain organizations. Those could be same teams, but overall, there is a bloodline, and that role has to cut across Dev and Ops. Either it is SRE or DevOps engineer. In my personal opinion, they play a key role on both sides of the fence. And that's where that fence has to go away for us to get agility in our operations. Hope I answered your question. It's a long-winded answer, but I know I just trying to get you the full context there, and it could be based on your own context.
Yeah, thank you, Dinesh. And I think it was also very valuable for people who are not like into this topic and just came here to learn the basics. So given the full context also helped people to see the question from different perspective and to get some deeper knowledge regarding that. So we have, thank you, on the chat. So I think the question is answered.
Thank you for asking question.
Yeah, so let's move on to the DevOps engineer role, if some of you are interested in that. And again, I am an Agile coach, I'm not a DevOps engineer. So if you have any better solutions that I have here on the slide, feel free to jump in when I finish presenting a few slides, and then we can share knowledge together, and maybe there's going to be something better coming out after this presentation. So the way we structure...
Muhammad has his hands up.
Oh, Mohammed, yeah, please.
Okay, thanks for allowing me again to ask, and sorry if I interrupt your smooth talking. But Ina, now I'm asking regarding the pure Agile issue I am currently facing with my team. Now I am working as a service delivery with the team that is newly to Agile. They have the principle, they have the mindset, they have a clear understanding about the core Agile principle. When I started to ask them why don't we applying a DevOps, especially in, let us say, in a small area of our backlog item, they come to me with a question that I really think that is good to ask. They told me, Muhammad, look, by the end of the day, Agile is to make customer more satisfied, make customer more engaged. What is the real added value that we will be benefits with if we apply DevOps? We already working on Agile. We already have a customer satisfaction. We already have a customer centric. What is the added value if we apply DevOps? I hope you understand my question and give me your insight, and also Danish, as I am pretty sure you have so much experience. Thanks again, and you have all my open ears. Thanks.
Thank you, Mohammed, for asking that question again. And in nutshell, let me tell you the one thing there. Agile is a journey. Agility journey is something that leads you to the DevOps to get you a higher maturity as your organization. So yeah, Agile can lead you to up to some space and you can get it there, but how you can get better, that's where DevOps comes into the play. You might be connected with your end user as part of your agility journey, but are you able to fulfill those needs faster enough? Now, you could be agile in understanding and doing everything in terms of their pain points, coming up with ideation for new things and all. But if you lack in terms of delivering those faster, ability to respond to consumer needs in a faster pace, that's where DevOps complements agility to scale you to the higher maturity level as an organization. Okay, now, but you have to understand one thing. DevOps is not something you can apply locally because it does come with certain upfront cost in terms of your infrastructure investment, in terms of your tool set investments, and there has to be a rationale behind going all out for that. Yeah, you can do as part of, if you are a part of a bigger organization, you can apply DevOps in one of the business units of the organization. But if you are part of a business unit and you want to apply it to your team or your initiative, probably that's going to be too expensive and maybe too much to deal with in terms of your organization's whole infrastructure map or architecture that is in place. So my recommendation in terms of going for DevOps is it has to be a holistic approach to lead an organization to overall business agility. DevOps is not for faint-hearted. The same goes for agility also. It's not for the faint-hearted because it does require upfront time and commitment and resources in order for you to be successful in long run. So organizations that are starting new, like these Amazons or Meta or Facebook for that matter, or Google and all, those who have started in the last couple of decades and all, are more agile to the organizations who are there like HP, IBM and all, because their processes and their systems and infrastructure are legacy. Theirs are not. Hence, they are taking time to respond to those things and making changes to their organizations. So certainly it is going to complement your agility journey. However, DevOps is recommended when you have certain maturity in your agility journey as an organization. It's not to say that you cannot do it at the same time, but it's going to be too much to digest by the people if they are used to working in traditional work environment, to do both at the same time.
Okay, so let me wrap up your answer to make sure that I understand your answer well, Danish. You mean DevOps is more to small teams, startups, not for the legacy organization that have its already structure, that have its already up and running business model and all of this stuff. I'm getting you correct?
No, okay, let me correct. Let me just try to rephrase it. So DevOps is for everyone. However, adoption of DevOps is easier and faster for the new organization or startup and slower and little painful for the bigger organization. It's applicable for both, but how it is going to be applied, that is going to be different. They will take a different path in becoming a true DevOps organization. A small startup, a new organization could be able to establish their infra right from day one, while for a bigger organization, they will have to replace their infrastructure that is in place. They will certainly be sometimes waiting for sunsetting of their tool set or sunsetting of their infra hardware and all before they buy new ones and all. There is a lot of red tape batch is going to be coming in. But is it not for big organization? No, it is for big organizations also, but somebody has to be brave enough in that big organization to stay and put their neck on the line and say, no, I'm going to bring in DevOps in my area, my business unit, and I'm willing to sacrifice certain, I would say, time and resources, and also a delay in initial time, because when you're setting it up, you might not get the benefits right after. It takes some time to realize your benefits to implement something like this in a bigger organization.
Okay, I got you. Thanks, Danish, for clarification.
Okay,
thanks.
Welcome.
Yeah, thank you, Mohammed, for asking, and Dinesh for answering. And for those who are not like deeper in the topic, I would like bring it to the like very simple nutshell. So Agile helps to increase communication and collaboration between customer and developers team, to understand what customer wants and to be faster in getting this feedback. DevOps is helping to getting faster into implementing the feedback. So in Agile, we are getting feedback, but to get feedback is not enough. We need to implement it, to ask for another feedback. And this is where Agile and DevOps complement each other. And as Dinesh already told us, it's easier to implement it in a smaller organizations because there are less processes, because like people need to code it, to test it, build package, schedule the release, and then deploy. If you're small, it's easy to do because you have less tools for that, you have less code, you have less everything. Imagine large organizations with numerous departments where all teams can't release and deploy at the same time. So the releases needed to be scheduled. There are like other tools involved in that. There are other processes, and change all of these tools and processes are more time consuming and also money consuming, and not organizations are ready to start it, because if you start doing it, you can't come back in between, because you already spent money and started changing tools, and you can't come back to the old tools when you're in the middle of implementation of the new one. All right, let's move on to the DevOps engineer role. Now I don't see any questions. So if you are a DevOps engineer, you don't write code. This is the first you need to know if you are thinking of becoming a DevOps engineer. However, you need to know and you need to understand how developers work, because you are the one who is helping them to get faster to the release and deployment. So you need to know how they work. You need to know which Git workflow developers use in their work. You need to know how the application is configured, and you need to know about automated testing. So this is from the development side. And with DevOps, so development and operations. So operations obviously is the second side of this work, and here you need to understand on how to prepare the infrastructure. So to prepare infrastructure, Linux basics really helpful, and server management and any other tools DevOps engineers use based on your region and your specific organization, but you need to know how to prepare infrastructure and everything what is included into this phrase. Network and security is another side of this work you need to be aware about. So you need to be able to prepare the server to run your application. In order to do that, you need to understand basics of network and security, firewall, proxy service basics, and other tools you might need to be able to prepare the server to run your application. HTTP, HTTPS, how IP address, port, and DNS work. This is from network and security side. The other side of this job is containers. So you need to understand concepts of visualization and containers. The tool is used for that is Docker is the most popular one. Probably there are something else, but Docker is what we've used in all organizations I worked for. And there is not just one container, there are multiple containers, and like the bigger organization or the complex your product is, the more containers you have. So you need to know about container orchestration tools, which Kubernetes, again, is one of the most popular ones here. Getting to the core of your role. So before you just like needed to know about those aspects and understand how they work, but build automation, and CI/CD is the core of your role and the main part of what you need to do. So by building automation and CI/CD, we mean build tools and package manager, automate them, and the tools we use for that are like Maven, Redale, Xcode, Jenkins. I know Jenkins is the most like popular one, at least in the organization I worked for, but probably there are other tools I don't know about. The second one is artifact repository, and popular tools are Docker Hub, Nexus, JFrog. The third one is functional automation and acceptance. So Appium is one of the popular tools. Automated performance testing, it's the final part of CI/CD, and New Relic is a popular tool here. Now, also, as a DevOps engineer, you need to know infrastructure as a service. And there are like 3 popular tools, Amazon AWS, Google Cloud, and Microsoft Azure. So if you are a beginner, you need to know at least one of these tools. Coming to monitoring, as a part of this role, we need to track performance, to monitor software, to create and monitor infrastructure. I mean, in infrastructure provisioning, and Terraform is one of the popular tools, and configuration management. So Puppet is a tool we used in my previous org. I'm not sure if it's the most popular one or not, but this is what we used. So I'm bringing it as an example, and kind of like the summary of what I've been just talking. So to be DevOps engineer, you need to know DevOps concepts. You need to know CI/CD pipeline, Jenkins, obviously, containers and container orchestration, and such as Kubernetes and Docker. OS systems and Linux would be helpful. Cloud providers, AWS as an example, networking and security, monitoring, scripting language, and Python is one of the examples we can use here. Infrastructure as a code, also Terraforms are one of the examples you can start learning. Version control, and Git is another popular tool for version control. So this, how many we have? 6, 9, 10 aspects of the job if you would like to become a DevOps engineer. And that was kind of the last slide for this presentation. And Dinesh, if you have anything to add about DevOps engineer role, feel free to share.
No, I think we talked about when I was talking about DevOps and SRE, so I think I'm good unless there is a specific question. I know we are coming on time now. And okay, I think Jishan has a question. Jishan?
Hi, Dinesh.
Hello, Jishan.
Hi. Actually, I'm from Pakistan, and I'm studying DevOps. My question is that actually, first let me introduce myself. What I'm doing. I have more than 10 years of experience in networking and security, and I am a security senior consultant in Karachi. Basically, my question is that since I'm studying DevOps, how deep knowledge of coding you need for DevOps? Should I need, for example, if a developer is doing Java or some other coding, what kind of how much deep knowledge should I need to understand the workflow of Java?
Okay, that's a good question, Jishan, and certainly the whole stack in terms of technology is so varied that you cannot have everything that is being used by different organizations to be learned by you. But as part of your organization, whatever technology stack you have, you certainly need to have a good appreciation of how all those technologies work. You do not need to be an expert of any of those, but you need to have a fair understanding what does that code snippet of code is working, how if that is causing some problem, how you can solve it without creating another loop of going back to the developer. And as part of DevOps engineer, you can stabilize it on your own rather than creating a change ticket and defect and whatnot. So that's the whole intent is. So as long as it's not you're not supposed to be becoming an architecture or designer in that particular technology, but you should be able to troubleshoot in the technology. You should have foundational understanding of the tech stack that is being used in your respective organization. You are not going to be expected to be coding fully in terms of new features and all, but you are expected to have an understanding how that coding has been done. And since we are going to be using standard practices in terms of how coding should be done, it should not be difficult for a person with good appreciation of the technology to understand how that code base is reacting to the changes that are being done, what is causing those problems to come in our production environment.
Thank you so much, Dinesh.
Most welcome. And thank you everyone again for joining us. I know you are 4 minutes over, but thank you for staying back and having patience to work with us for this hour. We hope that we made it valuable of your time.